to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in, one and all. Andy, Mike, and Jason, the Fantasy Footballers, back with you. Tuesday, May 27th. It's a beautiful day. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the holiday.
Not our guys.
Whoa, you can enjoy your work, Jason.
That's true, and I do.
We would love, we have it's the crunch. It's the ultimate draft kit crunch time, and so every year we do a delayed Memorial Day for
makeup
the
Memorial
staff a couple weeks after, because we have the ultimate draft kit coming out at the end of this week. So we are extremely excited to bring the 2025 UDK your way. 5 days away. You can pre-order it, ultimatedraftkit.com. I did have somebody reach out because we've been doing this show a long time, and the UDK has been a key part of people's draft day plans for a long time. And so, and it's grown and it's expanded over the years. But I did have some people literally write in and just say it was funny because one person was like, "This is my first year getting the UDK. Can you tell me what's in it?" He bought it already. He bought it already.
That's a good man.
But he wanted us to describe some of the features just a little bit more, because sometimes that gets lost. I think when we just bring it up. So
we used to talk about all the details because it was new. Now we just expect. Well, everybody has it.
But
everybody should be using it,
or more that that they know what's in there. But we're in the middle of one of the big features is we have 100+ player profile videos. So we break down the situations for 100 players on video, individual profile videos. So we're in the middle of recording those. We record those as close to release as possible. Obviously, things change. That's the neat thing about the UDK is this is a living, breathing, always updated, always changing draft guide from June 1 all the way into your draft season. We're always in there making tweaks and adjustments. This is not like a magazine you buy off the shelf and then it's outdated in a week. That's one of the key features. That's why we designed it, as we were used to getting those magazines and things like that before we had the show. We wanted something that's always up to date. So those videos are happening right now. That's one of the big features. There's custom cheat sheets inside of the UDK. So if you are like me and you like to have a piece of paper printed out, you can customize those. You can
customize them to your league. Whatever you're set at, you got some weird, wild scoring or whatever, you can put that in. And
all of our rankings support custom scoring. This year, especially, we've upgraded the importing functionality, so you can import from ESPN public and private leagues, Yahoo leagues, sleeper leagues, NFL.com leagues, and then you can put if you're not playing on those platforms, you can just add your scoring settings, and it will customize the rankings for you. All of our stat projections, so every player, every stat are in there. Our tier-based rankings, Jason.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because the Ultimate Draft Kit, the main thing is the tier-based rankings that we pour ourselves into and make sure that you've got the position-separated tiers that are highly accurate rankings, historically proven. But then you have a bunch of the other stuff when you want to dive deeper and you want to see the strength of schedule to start the season.
There's some research tools built in.
All sorts of
consistency charts. That's a big one.
Red zone reports and ADPs across all platforms.
One of the things that we've really improved too is just there's a mobile app and there's a web version, so you can use either one. And there's player marking, so you can go in there and mark players. If you want to hide keepers for your league.
I was going to say Andy does it the old man way.
That's right.
He uses the cheat sheet creator, prints things out, and then physically uses, I assume, some sort of writing utensil.
It's usually a marker.
It's normally, it's one that you got the strong smell.
Yeah, and so that's how he does it. I use the app. I use on a tablet.
That's what I do.
And that way you can mark who you want to, make sure I don't forget that I want to draft this player, and just track your draft that way.
So those are some of the core features. You can read about more of them at ultimatedraftkit.com. And if you get the UDK Plus, you also get the Draft Analyzer, which releases on July 1st, so a month after release date. And that allows you to basically just bring in your team that you drafted anytime in the offseason, and we will grade it. We will analyze it. We will tell you where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, an action plan to improve your team. So we break it down. You get a grade from us.
And you'll find out which one of us three likes your team the most, which is my favorite very stupid feature.
Yes, yes, we did add that in there. So that's just an overview of that tool. Our team has done a great job of upgrading the app this year, just functionality-wise. It's much more snappy. It's got more function or features. And so we're super excited. That comes out on Sunday. So get it now, ultimatedraftkit.com. Here's your quick question for the day. And I'm curious, Jason, what was discussed on the Dynasty show about this, because I did not hear your discussion. But what do you believe the floor and ceiling for R.J. Harvey is this season? R.J. Harvey, rookie running back for the Denver Broncos, second-round pick, went – the Broncos were a team that a lot of people projected to draft a running back. They did not necessarily think they'd wait until the 60th pick in the draft or go with R.J. Harvey. What's your answer to that question? What's the floor and ceiling for R.J. Harvey in this offense?
I mean, the floor feels like it's got to be around a running back running back 24. You've got a really good offense, or at least projected to be a quality team with, up and coming Bo Nix and Sean Payton. And you've got a running back core that is so in need of R.J. Harvey or anyone who is talented. They've got a itty bitty baby in McLaughlin. They've got Audric Estime, who's just a first and second down banger, and Javonte Williams had so much opportunity last year. The way that they use the running backs in the passing game is incredible.
Number one in target share.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. This is like Sean Payton's way. We have like 15 years of all sorts of running backs. This isn't an Alvin Kamara skewed thing. There are so many different running back cores he has had, and he always has his quarterback target them a lot. And so R.J. Harvey should get a lot of targets, a lot of carries. So I think that gives him a nice high floor. What is his ceiling?
Yeah, that's the more interesting question to me, is like, what could he actually finish at?
I think in the range of outcomes is a top 10.
See, I agree with that. I think that the situation that I compare it most to was actually Kareem Hunt in Kansas City, because Kareem Hunt was not a first-round pick. He was third, right?
I believe that's right, yeah.
And yet, going into the drafts that year, you realized that he was going to be the guy in Kansas City. You had confidence.
Who was it that got injured ahead of
Spencer
him?
Ware.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he got hurt, you knew that it was an Andy Reid offense, right? You got a Sean Payton offense, you got an Andy Reid offense. You have a guy that they handpicked in a round that wasn't the first round. It seems like the Broncos had their eye on R.J. Harvey. And so, to me, they have a plan for him. So how high is that? I genuinely, this is not a projection that he will get there, but I think the range of outcomes is like 6. I think he could be the RB6.
Yeah,
in a perfect world. Staring
down Javonte's 70 targets from last year, like that's some juicy stuff. Now Javonte was only 139 attempts, and Peyton has used multiple running backs,
which he still will use.
Yeah, he absolutely will. And so it's just that's where the ceiling will shake out of how much of the actual timeshare is he going to be in charge of, because I do think that Estime will be involved as well, and
Estime could end up being the goal line back,
right,
which would be really hard on R.J. Harvey.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of variables out there bouncing around for R.J. Harvey, but the overall situation is something that you want to invest in for fantasy football.
Here's some data for you, because we don't have a lot of day 2 running backs that get drafted in fantasy in the top 5 rounds of fantasy drafts. We've only had 11 of those in the last 15 years. And so it's rare when you get drafted later to end up in the top 5 in fantasy, top 5 rounds. Only 4 of those 11 finished as top 24 running backs, and only 4 of those 11 had more than 250 opportunities. So, it's nice if you look at a player like Kareem Hunt to use him as a sample, but he is the sample gone right.
That's a fascinating stat.
Yeah, it's very, very low odds that you're going to get 250 plus opportunities or finish in the top 24, even if you've convinced the world to draft you in fantasy.
Yeah, because round 2 is great for long term. Like, dynasty, we talk about that of you got round 2 draft capital. This is sensational. But for immediate day 1 impact, it's not as common.
So that'll be. I mean, he's one of the more exciting players to watch this year.
I was really curious seeing that most of them do not get 250 opportunities. I was like, what did I give him? I have him down for 243 opportunities.
We all seem to have him ranked kind of near the floor right now.
Yeah, I have him right now as my RB 23.
Okay, all right. Let's talk some news.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but Javonte Williams told a Cowboys team reporter that he feels, quote, completely like himself 2 years removed from a knee injury. Is it tempt you to believe?
This quote doesn't, but his ADP and the situation of the Cowboys is it will be very difficult for me to not have a couple teams with Javonte on there of just in case.
I agree. The player saying he feels good means jack squat.
Great.
I mean, he's never going to be like, man, I feel slow.
Did you ever
Have you ever heard a player say like, man, I feel like I don't got it? I mean, maybe when they retire.
This will come off like a Rico Dowdle insult, but I want you to not take it that way. Jason, did you ever really feel that Rico Dowdle was special?
No.
Okay. Did the league didn't either, because he had an opportunity this offseason to go someplace, and he's a backup to Chuba Hubbard.
Right.
Rico Dowdle he had success in this offense.
Yeah, the second half of the year, once they gave him the work, it was very good. And the other thing Mike said, which is true, and I just moved Javonte up a little bit in my rankings, which felt gross. It didn't feel like
I get that
great, but
don't tell anybody about that.
The thing that is actionable is that right now in their OTAs, he's receiving the lion's share of the first team, and we expect him to be first in the rotation. But there is a world here where he's not just first in the rotation. He's just the best one that they have because they don't got a lot of, good running backs there. And he is the main running back, the primary ball carrier. So if that's the case for, a good offense, I think everyone views the Dallas Cowboys with Dak and CD and George healthy.
George.
Yeah, I don't think you were
no,
here.
He wasn't.
This was a
was
a Footcast thing.
Yeah, I don't understand. You only say George now.
That's
the gag.
It's not a gag. It's how I can remember who he is. George, a.k.a.
George Pickens?
George Pickens, yeah. See?
A.k.a. what?
George is his only name that will be ever said by me.
Okay.
Just so you know.
With the Cowboys, like last year, the not confidence necessarily that the player was awesome, but the confidence that it would end up being Rico Dowdle was like it seemed clear looking at the depth chart. Looking at the depth chart of the Cowboys this year, though, it's not clear. Like, although I would have Javonte a bit higher if I felt really confident, but like Miles Sanders is there.
He's been a starter.
Like he has experience, and then later
he's been
round,
as disappointing as Javonte
right.
Williams.
Well, he's very rich. And then they drafted Jayden Blue. It's someone. It's very likely that someone emerges from here. And right now the bet is going to be Javonte Williams. It's just that need more information out of camp how things are shaking out.
All right, we have there was some conversation around the Lions throwing the ball downfield more.
Mm-hmm.
They have John Morton as their offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson leaving. The purpose behind that, in part, Dan Campbell talked about it. It was to keep stability. It was to keep continuity with the things that they've been doing. I brought up not Javonte Williams, Jameson Williams. On recent shows, I'm very, very excited about Jameson Williams this year. This would obviously be a good thing for him if they got the ball downfield more. Jared Goff had the third lowest percentage of attempts 20-plus yards downfield, which is surprising because they were such a great offense. It's
also boo.
And if you look at the Broncos last year, where John Morton is coming from with a rookie, Bo Nix actually aired it out downfield quite a bit, significantly more than Jared Goff. And then as far as continuity, John Morton he went from the Lions to the Broncos, now is back with the Lions.
And then the New Orleans football squad, they're trying to figure out who's going to play quarterback. Their win total is sitting at 5.5 this year, and Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck supposedly going to battle for this opportunity.
Hayner hurt his oblique, I think it was. So that is a big-time bummer to be in a quarterback competition right now, and you can't throw for a while.
Yeah, the news was basically that Spencer Rattler was looking really, really good. And when the news comes out that Spencer Rattler is looking really good.
Yeah.
Lower your win total.
Lower your win total. Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah. All right. I don't think we have other news. Al, do you have anything back there? I'm looking over at Deucer's Alley. Everything's safe back there. Everything good?
Everything's all good back here.
The Falcon immediately went to a nose wipe.
I got to double check that everybody's got their shirt on. Nothing's wrong back there.
For now.
It's a bunch of degenerates.
Yeah. Well, they don't call it Deucer's Alley for nothing. We'll take a break, and then we're going to bring some wildcard players. Is it news that we're still waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision? I mean, he's doing interviews and stuff in front of a crowd.
He's doing his dumb,
and he's teasing.
Yeah,
he's the Steelers quarterback. He is the Steelers quarterback. I don't know what agreement, and I don't know why he won't just go sign right now. But everyone knows he's going to play for the Steelers. And what you're alluding to is he was asked "Oh, would you ever play for the Chicago Bears?" And he's like, "No." But I might play in Chicago this year. Yeah. And it's like, well,
is that where the Steelers?
The Steelers have a game.
Do the Saints play in Chicago this year?
I don't believe so.
Okay. He's a troll. He's a troll. And look, I would, at that age, if you're not on the team, you don't got to do any of the workouts. You don't got to go to any of the events.
Hey, you just troll. Just from the outside.
There was a rumor that
be pretty cool if I was the quarterback.
The backup plan for the Steelers would be Kirk Cousins if Rodgers didn't work out.
Yes, that I can get behind.
No.
Yes.
No.
The Saints do play in Chicago, by the way.
Oh, they do? Yeah. Okay, so.
Yeah, I think that's why
Captain Troll.
The Saints got thrown out as another
You know what I can get behind?
Retirement?
Steelers. No. Mr. Tomlin, do something. Do something about do something about the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. Because it is a disaster.
If you knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to be your quarterback and it was just a posturing move to wait, you wouldn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just
You're
overall.
Saying he's not the answer.
I'm saying BS.
I got you.
Aaron Rodgers on this team. Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers. They're probably above 500. They probably sneak in and get a wild card spot, and then they lose in the first round again.
Aaron Rodgers is their path to finally getting a good quarterback and finally finishing under 500. That is the future for the Steelers that they don't know they want Aaron Rodgers to come on board so that they can finally have a losing season and get a decent quarterback.
Dude, they won with Kenny Pickett.
Oh, I know. And they would win with Mason Rudolph.
They'll win with Aaron Rodgers.
I'm telling you.
He's a better quarterback
Mason
than those
Rudolph
two
is
guys.
better for that team. Aaron Rodgers.
He's a better quarterback than
Aaron Rodgers will take it over and find a way to light it on fire.
Jason's got
I want Pittsburgh to have a good quarterback.
Then go get Kirk Cousins.
I want them to have a good quarterback.
He said good.
Man.
You
good.
like Kirk?
A lot more than Aaron, yeah.
I think Aaron's a better quarterback today than Kirk is.
Agree to disagree.
You watch football last year?
I did.
How did Kirk look?
How did Aaron Rodgers
Much better than Kirk.
No.
Mike?
One of them got benched.
Yeah.
Despite being paid $1 bajillion guaranteed.
Well, one of them had a first-round quarterback drafted behind him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, one of them.
Talk about least favorite debates of all time. Like these, I don't want to talk about either of these guys. Let's talk about some wild cards.
No, I'm saying no. The brakes, guys. Why aren't the brakes working?
Because I cut the brakes. Wildcard. Yeah!
Fantasy wild cards, players with a huge range of outcomes in 2025. Players
they might cut your brakes.
Players that we feel like were very difficult to rank when we were doing projections. It is a reason why, and we didn't mention it at the top, but it's a reason why we have upside and risk ratings alongside statistical projections. It's meant to symbolize that certain players have a wide range of outcomes. They have high upside, high risk, variables in play. On the show last year, and I didn't realize this till just now, or didn't remember it till just now, but we talked about Josh Jacobs and Jamison Williams and George Pickens on the show last year. All players that look, Josh Jacobs ended up being a huge draft value. His upside was fulfilled, and Jamison Williams too. He had a big season. George Pickens, you saw the bad as well.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. So we've each kind of picked one main wild card to bring up, and then we've got some honorable mention names as well. One of you guys want to kick it off?
Sure. I will start here. It's a running back, and I think that he's a wild card because look, as of right now, my thoughts on my projections they're formulating, and my opinions of Aaron Jones are like I don't know that I really want to draft him, but I have to at least recognize what happened last year, where he was very quietly the running back 16. Over 11 points a game. Like in terms of consistency, too, it's a B for the way that we grade. Almost 59% of his games, he was over 10.5 points. So he wasn't like giving you these huge ceiling games over and over, but he was consistently being a really solid running back, too. And then they give him more money when he's already old. It felt like a really strange thing. And then the bigger piece of this puzzle of making him a true wild card was the trade for Jordan Mason. They went and they saw a guy from San Francisco who started the year averaging 95 rushing yards per game through the first 7 weeks. Jordan Mason was great on the ground. But bringing him – and then they give Jordan Mason money. So it's like who is really –
It's wild card written all over.
Who is really in charge of here? Like who – because like between Aaron Jones at his age, which another insane thing, this was the highest opportunities the last year that Aaron Jones has ever received.
For real?
Yes.
In his career?
In his career. He's been over 300 opportunities 2 times, and it was 317 last year.
And by the way, his pace didn't change. They didn't say like, oh, you're a veteran, so we'll give you a bunch in the beginning. And look, the split is almost identical. 300-plus opportunities, first half, second half.
And if you were watching the Minnesota Vikings, you're like, I get why they need him. The team is just much, much better with Aaron Jones. But the fact that they brought in Jordan Mason here, like who will end up being just better on the ground this year? Jordan Mason or Aaron Jones? I don't know that I can answer that. But there exists a world where Aaron Jones still keeps 70% or so of the job, and he ends up being a solid running back too yet again.
There are certain players that fantasy football players want to be done with.
Yeah.
And I feel like, obviously for you, one of those names is Joe Mixon.
Yes.
I think you would love nothing more than to never to be done with Joe Mixon. I feel like Aaron Jones is in that same category where like people, like they feel like the time is come and gone for Aaron Jones, but they ignore the numbers that you just brought up. Now, I would like Mixon more than Jones because of the Jordan Mason factor that you brought up. But this is also an offense that, like, time and time again, we keep getting surprised with how good it is.
Yeah, you should want the guy from Minnesota.
What's the ADP for Aaron Jones right now? Do you have that up?
Let's see. The sleeper looks about the back of the 6.
That's insane. That seems like if you end up committing to a top-tier quarterback, or a top-tier tight end, and you end up with some wide receivers up front, and you're telling me you could have Aaron Jones as your RB2?
Right.
Would any of us be, like, extremely hesitant about that?
I think I'm hesitant in the terms of
that's about where we have him, by the way.
Like the receiving work, I feel very confident that will go to Aaron Jones. You know, for whatever reason, they didn't even really try it. last year when Jordan Mason was the true workhorse for the San Francisco 49ers.
You don't know why?
They still didn't throw it to him.
Jordan Mason, Jordan Howard.
Yeah. Oh, Jordan's just.
I think that's
not
the
a
problem.
good name for
it's
pass catching running
stone
backs.
hands. If your name is Jordan, it's stone hands.
And so I think that'll go to him, but I can't. It's hard to get a beat on what does this actual split look like, or do we get hot hand every single week?
Yeah, I mean, I just was in a draft where I was staring down a couple running backs, and Aaron Jones was there, and he was a little bit lower in my rankings. I took a look, and I reminded myself what he did last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, he is the running back one for a really good offense. I mean, part of it depends on J.J. McCarthy. That's another huge wild card to Aaron Jones is like, will he succeed or will he not? I think all three of us universally believe he will succeed and that the Vikings will be a good offense this year. That's my belief. So I ended up drafting Aaron Jones a little bit higher than expected because, yeah, I mean, he feels safe outside of injury. But the injury, the fact that he just had over 300 carries for only the second time.
300 opportunities.
300 opportunities for the second time in his career, and he's older and he's dealt with injuries in the past and he's smaller. That's actually my fear.
But he also didn't get hurt.
Last year, yeah.
Right, which is, I mean, that says something that he did hold up. Under the biggest workload of his career was his healthiest year. I would ask you this too, like drafting Aaron Jones, how does that feel?
It doesn't feel good.
He's going to be in drafts around rookies. He's going to be around some rookies that you're going to be thinking about, like, do I want to go try Kaleb Johnson in Pittsburgh?
Well, let's talk about the next wild card.
Wow.
Oh, is that your name?
That's my name, baby.
That was an amazing segue.
That was, because you didn't even know it was happening.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my wild card is rookie running back Kaleb Johnson. Obviously, we've got the conundrum of wild card of who's the quarterback, but take that out, right? We all know it's Aaron Rodgers. Regardless of that, the question for Kaleb Johnson was the 6th running back taken in this year's draft class. Usually that does not sound very good.
Yeah, we just broke down all those R.J. Harvey numbers.
Right, but he was a day 2 pick, which is very good because it's a very high-quality running back class. And so Kaleb Johnson was really a tier break, I think. Remember, the Steelers brought in 9 running backs for their top 30 visits, which that's the most we have ever seen in the data that we have since 2015. And when they took Kaleb Johnson, most of the running backs that they brought in were still available to be drafted as far as the ones that they brought in for top 30 visits. Kaleb Johnson, I loved his film. He was already polarizing prior to the NFL draft.
I was not on that side.
Right, and so you look at our rankings. I've got him right now ranked as running back 19. Andy, you've got him at running back 32. And I totally see that. Like, when you watch his film, I love this film. Other people watch his film and go, I can't stand his film. And he's a very patient, slow-starting runner, but he's very explosive down the field. And, you know, you look at what they did with Jaylen Warren this offseason. They gave him a higher-than-expected tender, signed him to bring him back. They talked prior to the NFL draft about he can be our primary runner. But then they went out and tried to, they brought in 1 million running backs to look at and obviously prioritize that. They didn't have a second-round pick. They still spent a day 2 pick on a running back. Kaleb Johnson is coming into a situation where you've got the history of Mike Tomlin until very recently always having that one-back system, the Le'Veon Bell or the James Conner of the past. And when I hear the quotes from Mike Tomlin about this guy, he's talking. This is what Tomlin said after the draft. He said, I was talking about physicality and a big man agenda. This is a high volume, capable runner who was the center of his offense. A lot of NFL Sunday-like runs, if you will, meaning he did it from home position or the pistol position into a lot of loaded boxes. It wasn't a lot of guesswork or Saturday-like holes in his tape that made the evaluation a fun one, an easy one. I think by the end of this year, he is the dude for this team. Big breakaway runs coming. But if you want to talk wild card, first of all, Arthur Smith is the OC.
Oh, man.
What can we do? How can we trust? How can we trust in anything when he's the OC? That's tough. And then what is the workload of Jaylen Warren? Is he going to be what he has been? Or does he now, there were other quotes from the offensive coordinator after the draft saying it's a long rookie season, everything is going to be new to him, and they'll probably bring him along slowly. So maybe slowly as through camp and like he earns it quicker and starting in week 1 it's great. Maybe it's halfway through the year, maybe it doesn't happen. But I do think that the high end for Kaleb Johnson is very, very high. I would put it just as high as RJ Harvey's. Where
it's a tough one, especially if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, because there'll be a trust factor there. You know, Rodgers is going to want the guy out there that's pass blocking, and so
the pass blocking will definitely go to Jaylen Warren, a very good pass blocker. But you know, Kaleb Johnson, Najee Harris averaged 319 touches per year in his 4 years with the Steelers. 3 of those years were with Jaylen Warren. So there's so many opportunities here. And since 2013, every single rookie running back drafted on day 2 who saw more than 220 opportunities finished as a top 25 running back. Every single one.
Right. If you get the opportunities, it'll work.
Right.
Right.
And
I mean, it's
the vacated opportunities here are massive.
It's just like RJ Harvey. It is still long odds over the last 15 years to get that many opportunities as a day 2 pick. I think it's right in front of him. I think a lot of people know that. I think everybody that's trying to trade for him in Dynasty is getting their trades rejected because I think they know. Like Jaylen Warren, regardless of what he has this year, is not their future running back. No,
in fact, beat reporters are saying they don't expect him to be on the roster the next year. In a Dynasty league, Kaleb Johnson is amazing because he's very, very young. You know, that was the conversation we had on the Dynasty show, was actually RJ Harvey versus Kaleb Johnson, because I think most projections have RJ Harvey with a better rookie season than Kaleb Johnson right now.
Yeah.
But there is a 3-year age gap between those players.
Ceiling and floor numbers for Kaleb.
I think the floor is lower with Kaleb. I think the floor is going to be like running back 30, running back 32, somewhere around there. I think the ceiling is running back 6. I believe this.
Ooh,
to me,
I was going to say top 15.
I was going to say like maybe, I'd say like 12 to 15.
It's a real evaluation gamble because what happened if you didn't follow along, if you're just getting back into rookies this year, Kaleb Johnson, his production profile, oh brother, you don't get better than this. He accounted for 43% of Iowa's total yardage last year, 52% dominator rating, easily best in this class, even ahead of Genty.
Why was this guy?
But then the combine happened.
I was going to say, why was he the 6th running back off the board?
The combine happened, and he ran a slow 40. And Mike Tomlin talked about that. He's like, he's not slow. He's super fast. And no. You turn that off. You turn that disrespect off. He hit 22 miles per hour.
That was Joyke Bell walking to the studio.
Oh, all right. Okay. He was just nearby. He hit 22 miles per hour on the field, but he's not a sprinter. He doesn't.
Took him 80 yards to get up to speed.
Maybe. I mean,
no. Look, he's a polarizing. I mean, their GM came out and said they viewed Jaylen Warren as starter worthy. That was another comment. Yeah. So it's like it's a definition of a wild card. I probably don't have the ceiling as high as you, but maybe next year. Maybe next year I'd do that. Mike, you didn't give us a floor and ceiling for Aaron Jones.
Oh, a floor for that. The floor for Aaron Jones, I think, is bad because the world exists
like outside the top 36.
Maybe not that low, but it's outside of the top 30. Like that, I think that could happen. And then the ceiling case for Aaron Jones would be probably right around where he finished last year. So like a top 15-ish guy.
Okay. My wild card name it's a rough one, man. It is this is like film versus reality to me in a lot of ways. It's Jayden Reed, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers.
Dude, I do not know what to do with this guy.
I feel like his range of outcomes and his potential, it's swirling into a tornado of what in the world do you do as a fantasy manager. I believe Jayden Reed is a top tier NFL wide receiver. I believe that everything I've seen on film for 2 years, I believe he is their best wide receiver, including the drafting of Matthew Golden. I think Jayden Reed is definitely their best route runner, wide receiver. Tons of explosive plays last year. His yards per catch went up 3 yards. And yet, he's not always on the field. And they use him in different weird ways. Now, there's a lot of positive Jayden Reed, propaganda and news this offseason. He's
bulking up.
He's up to 199 pounds. We like him putting on weight. They say he's the leader of the wide receiver room. He demanded, like a meeting with the team because of the drafting of Matthew Golden to understand his hierarchy. say what you will. Like we know that a lot of these other wide receivers in Green Bay are heading out the door, right? Like Christian Watson's time there, and Dobbs, and who knows about Wicks. The weird thing about Reed is that he's not always on the field. Last year, 63% of the time he's on the field. He's not out there in two wide receiver sets very often. Now the Packers, it doesn't matter sometimes. They're a 80% three wide out set situation. He's just like the first 4 games of last year summarize why Jayden Reed is a wild card. He finished as the wide receiver 1 in week 1. He finished as the wide receiver 2 in week 4. In between, he was a wide receiver 48 and 42. Like, he disappears. He's not a part of the game plan and not a part of the offense. And I will tell you, this is going to sound like people won't agree, but when Stephon Diggs was coming up in Minnesota, it was actually very similar. It took, if you go look at Stephon Diggs' career trajectory, he didn't hit 1,000 yards till year 4. He was a 60% player on Minnesota. But in the beginning, when you watch Stephon Diggs play,
oh yeah, I remember.
I knew Stephon Diggs was something special, and that is how I feel about Jayden Reed. Now, this year is a defining year for me. This is why he's a wild card. I think your price for Jayden Reed is it's going to be cheap, right? Like the upside for Jayden Reed to me is wide receiver 15, wide receiver 13, 14. Like if the season goes the right way, that's where he could be. But his other end is wide receiver 38, 40, somewhere in that department. So, last year he was wide receiver, you can see it there on the screen, 26 was his fantasy finish, but it was a hugely inconsistent and disappointing year. So, to me, he is like Matthew Golden. The nice thing is that Matthew Golden does not represent alpha to me.
Is that because he wasn't an alpha on his college team?
That would be one of the reasons why. Like Matthew Golden is awesome for Jordan Love. He's awesome for the offense. He's going to open up the offense in ways that Christian Watson did when he was healthy. But he's not going to be a volume. Like if Matthew
I can't wait for Golden to have disappearing games. I mean, the name is just right there, baby. Just out there being a golden goose.
Oh
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Swish! I had to get it in quick.
I was concerned where you were going.
I don't know where you thought I was going. Oh,
to the showers?
I can see it. I think so.
Why do I
to the
say
locker
words? Goodness gracious. Stupid. So stupid. So yeah, look, I'm gonna have Jayden Reed everywhere. I'm gonna have him.
Oh really?
Okay. I'm gonna have him everywhere.
End result is that you're in on Jayden Reed. That's very
good
interesting.
coach, good quarterback, good offense,
good player,
good team, good player. That's a 5-fingered recommendation.
Now that's great, but I will say this, right? Just the counterpoint, and obviously this is why he's a wild card. I have decided I won't have him anywhere.
It's because I'll have already drafted him.
Yeah, sure, you'll draft him ahead.
No, that's fine.
But last year, before
it.
drafting a first-round rookie wide receiver who will also be on the field and stop him from having the snap percentage that we want, he had a D consistent 35% of his games. Like he was actively hurting people last year if you were trying to play him, even including the games he helped you win.
And it came part and parcel with Jordan Love's kind of descent from a quarterback 5 overall finish. Like because Jayden Reed's rookie season, he was a wide receiver 23.
Yeah,
with a quarterback 5 in Jordan Love. So, yeah, wild card.
Is the 3.2 receptions per game.
I just believe he's really, really good. I genuinely do.
I believe that too. But I don't know how you have a good player on your team who's catching the ball barely 3 times a game. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean.
You know who that reminds me of? Matthew Golden. No joke. He's like a really good player on his college team that is barely involved.
I mean, yeah, look, Stephon Diggs, it took a long time.
Yeah, but Diggs was at least a year 2. I think he was catching
he had 84 receptions in year 2.
He's catching 6 balls a game in year 2.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not he will not level up fantasy-wise if he doesn't get more opportunity.
Yeah,
right.
The team has to make a decision.
I just think that he's going to get more opportunity because that's in the best interest of the team.
Well, and also when you bet, we talk about this more when we get closer to draft season, but it is a really good bet to bet on wide receivers later in drafts from wide receiver cores that are good that you just don't know who. You don't know where the what the pecking order is.
Yeah, that's why there's a discount.
Yeah, but part of that, and we don't ever want to talk about it because it's pure luck, but part of it is just injuries sometimes propel players to have more opportunities.
Yeah.
If you're betting on a talented guy on a good offense with a good quarterback, yeah, maybe the first couple games, it's like he's on the field 60% of the time and whatever, but then next thing you know, one of the wide receivers, Dobbs goes down to injury, Jayden Reed has to step up, and I mean that can only happen when you're betting on talented players.
Right, because you have to believe, because there have been opportunities for Dobbs in injury gaps.
Right.
And that hasn't led to amazing start. Yeah, you need to be talented enough to step into it. It's a good point. We'll take another break, and we'll come back with a few more wild card names that we have picked out. All right, give me one more honorable mention wild card name that has your brain spinning.
I'm going to go first, out of order here, just because going from Jayden Reed to this player was a wacky and wild trade that we just made in our Dynasty League. We traded Jayden Reed for Tyreek Hill in Dynasty.
What's Tyreek doing on this show?
Tyreek is a complete wild card. I mean, this is a player who 2 years ago was the wide receiver 1. He was the best wide receiver. He was drafted, if it wasn't Christian McCaffrey, it was often Tyreek Hill this last year. And now, this last year, he's old, and he doesn't hit 1,000 yards. He goes from 1,800 yards to 959 yards with one more game, with way more routes. And he's old. So it's like, okay, is this an age thing? Is this a Tua thing? He's 31. He didn't hit 1,000 yards. He was the wide receiver 23. But could he just bounce back? Oh, it was the wrist. It was, I don't know what to do with. Like, I'm out on Tyreek Hill for where he is in drafts.
But in the back of your head, something different could happen.
Absolutely. I'm not saying I'm out because I'm right. I'm saying I'm just putting the odds more that an older wide receiver coming off of a down year doesn't usually bounce back. But I'm terrified of that.
My name, and I brought it up a couple times because I'm the lowest of this group on it. It's Rashee Rice in Kansas City.
Super wild card.
Because he's just a weird player in some respects. Like 68% of his receiving yardage came after the catch. And
That's what he does, man.
It is what he does. But he does it he benefited from all the attention that Travis Kelce demands when Travis Kelce is elite. And Travis Kelce is diminishing. And you have Xavier Worthy emerging, and you have Hollywood Brown returning. So all of those variables mixed together with an injury that's a 6 to 9 month timeline that, okay, he's back. He'll be at training camp. Like, does it all go his way again to the point where it's worth that draft pick? Like, I have Worthy ahead of him in my rankings right now. Like, I don't know if either of those guys is a perennial top 15 wide receiver. I think maybe the Mahomes with these guys era is those guys sit between 16 and 25. I don't know. It's a wild card because the potential for Rashee Rice is top. Like, I think I have him, his ceiling's probably 7 or 8, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think his floor is outside the top 24.
I agree. I mean, that I am pretty confident that Rice will be good, but certainly, I mean, you bringing up the diminishing Kelce and the coverage changes because they're both working in the same area of the field.
Yes.
And Rashee Rice was always basically single covered and a little slant that worked every single time, but only for 3 games before he got injured.
That's the part where it's like, would teams have adjusted? Does it change? Does he have more in his bag?
Right. And has he been able to, as a young wide receiver progresses, they get better. They get stronger.
Also,
they get a better route runner, except he's been injured the whole year.
You just shocked me, by the way, because I didn't remember that his stint was that short.
Oh, that it was only 3 games?
3 games. Like, It feel like the breakout. If you had asked me, based on memory, how long he had played, I would have told you 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So it was only 3 weeks.
It was because of how good those 3 weeks were. I mean, those 3 weeks.
They were good.
He was on pace.
Were good. You
want to hear the pace? 163 targets, 1,632 yards, 11.3 touchdowns.
They were really good.
Yeah. It was nice. And nobody could stop. I remember the 3 of us were watching these games together. and we're frustrated.
Yeah, but have you seen Cincinnati try to stop somebody?
No, that's fair, but I've seen Baltimore stop people.
I mean,
but
look, I was waiting for the adjustment by teams, and it wasn't happening
it was
yet.
like, why are they letting him do the same little
Yeah, I think he's a wild card. I really
in-breaking
do.
route? You know Mahomes is going to hit him right in stride.
His ADP is a 4th-round pick. I don't think I'll spend it. I don't think I'll spend it.
I might.
I think I will.
What's your last name, Mike?
So it's a don't forget.
Wait, what is this?
What are we chuckling about?
The way you said, "What's your last name?"
What's your
Mike?
last name,
I was
Mike?
waiting for him to say right.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Thank you, Al.
I was.
Jason and I were on the
That's
same
on me.
page.
I
That's
heard
on
it
me.
too. Yeah. What's your last
I should have
name,
got
Mike?
that one. I apologize.
What's the last name?
Final.
Cedric Tillman of the Cleveland Browns. It was
Good name.
Look, this was a very short-lived breakout. It really was about 4 full games. But I bring him up because number one, that did happen, and on the other side you have Jerry Jeudy, who at the exact same time as Tillman, he was starting his breakout, but then Tillman got the concussion and was out the rest of the season. And then Jerry Jeudy, of course, goes on to have just an unbelievable second half and finishes with over 1,200 yards. But in that month span where like Cedric Tillman was getting more of an opportunity because they had just traded Amari Cooper. For those at home who forget what happened, like opportunity popped up. This 3rd-round pick that they had just taken 2 years ago is finally getting a chance. Talking about Cedric Tillman, and he is coming through in that time period. He's averaging over 75 yards, receiving yards a game, and almost a full touchdown. And in that time, Jerry Jeudy is at 78 yards. Like, so both of these guys are doing some serious work.
That was the Flacco?
This was Jameis.
Jameis.
Oh, Jameis,
so
even
that,
better.
Which is gets me to the
Only thing better than a Flacco is a Jameis.
which gets me to the next part of you have to get your pan and filter through that this was Jameis Winston playing, and the 2 wide receivers for the Browns combined are averaging 150
They're
yards.
both wild card. I think Judy's a wild card too.
But here's the thing. Because Jerry Jeudy ended up really taking advantage of everything that could possibly go right for Jerry Jeudy, of his 2 main competition wide receivers are gone. His garbage quarterback is out. Jameis the gunslinger is in. And then there was, some more rotation, of course, through the end of the season. But Jerry Jeudy, while people are like, I don't know. I'll take him in the 6th. Cedric Tillman is he being drafted?
He is borderline drafted in normal leagues right now.
This would be like the last pick.
So
to get a wide receiver.
And
too.
saying of a player who, very small sample, I get it, but he was doing the same things that Jerry
He's a
Jeudy was doing.
lowercase wild card. You can barely see him.
But at the same time, this was a day 2 pick, and this isn't his 4th or 5th year.
He got really hurt, man.
Yeah,
he got real. Remember, he was supposed to be coming back every week, and then it was like,
Yep.
I think what happened is, maybe I am off base here, but it also seemed like at the end of the year when they were losing every game and going after the number 1 pick, why bring a guy back?
Well,
just shut him down.
I think he would want to be back though, but you could be right.
He reminded me of Nico Collins. That it sounds like incredibly high praise, but
he's a good contested catch, big bodied end zone target. So yeah, it makes sense. He surprised people in a very positive way. He was able to handle high target load in those games and do a lot with it. So, but the troubling part about that is just the quarterback situation and not knowing what in the world's going on from week to week.
Absolutely.
Over under 3 quarterback changes in Cleveland this year.
Changes? So that's a good.
Are you counting a guy who goes back in?
Yes.
Then over
3.
Like, how do you? So can he? Let me ask you this question. Let's put it this way.
Probably over 3.
Yeah, it's like Kenny Pickett. Is he going to have snaps for the Browns?
Yes, he will start week 1.
If Flacco is on the roster, is he having snaps for the Browns?
I don't think he'll be on the roster, but yeah, he probably would.
Sanders is getting snaps. Gabriel
will definitely get snaps.
Yeah, all you need is a few to move on to Sanders.
Sure.
I don't know. And they rotated them all last year.
So that's the point. They're going to find a good one. They have so many options.
That's right. That's
but
right.
so my larger point for Cedric Tillman is if you are into the archetype of if you're into drafting Jerry Jeudy, you should keep an open mind that you might on some of your teams want to just draft Cedric Tillman at the end.
Yeah, I thought Jerry Jeudy went irresponsibly low in our mock draft on Thursday. I think what Jerry Jeudy showed ceiling wise last year made. I think he was. Where did he go? Was it late 6th? Was it later than that?
In our mock?
In our mock.
That's about his ADP.
Yeah, and I think that's wrong.
No,
he went at the back.
7-12.
Okay, that's what it was then. It was almost 8th round. That's insane. This was a guy that was literally.
I get it.
He was like the best wide receiver in football for a stretch.
Yeah, I think the second half of the year he was like wide receiver 4. Finished the
He
season
had
as wide receiver
1,200
15.
receiving yards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was great. But
8th round, obvious wide receiver 1 for this team.
The issue is obviously the quarterback. I mean, if Jameis was the quarterback, you'd see. I mean,
Draft
that's just
Jerry
a fun.
Jeudy.
That's just a fun question.
Draft
if
Jerry
Jameis
Jeudy.
was the quarterback this year, where would
that's
would
a-
Jeudy be in the first round? Like no joke. Would he?
He,
He's
would
second
not,
round?
he would
there.
not be in the first round, but he would be in the
He
in the third.
Yeah, he wouldn't get out of the third.
I don't think he'd get out of the second.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. No, that's a. If Jameis had been crowned, well, Tillman would be a 4th then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The joke would be number 1 overall.
Oh.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis is a kingmaker.
Jameis Winston brings it
Someone
up.
let that man start for us.
He is a kingmaker. That'll do it for today's episode. UltimateDraftKit.com comes out on Sunday. We'll be back with another episode on Thursday. Talk to you then.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.